Real Madrid is a soccer club or a football team in the Spanish capital. So I told him that they were losing 2-0 because during the week, Real Madrid gave him a jersey and they gave FC Barcelona gave Max a jersey. So if I could just give my buddy a win, I gave him a small win by telling Ilia that his favorite football team was getting their ass kicked like he had just beaten Max Holloway. So that's what happened.
I guess there's something on that. That is very confusing. I don't believe that you know what football is. I don't know where you got the score. I don't know who told you that, but it made for a great internet piece, and I appreciate it, DC. Now, can we please start the show?
What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy. I'm Daniel Cormier. That's Chael Sonnen. Chael, when I whispered that in Ilia's ear, he goes, really? As he was having like the greatest moment of his life, he goes, really? Because the other team's like the little brother, and they actually got one over on the big brother. They actually won 4-0. So it was crazy. Hey, how did you guys enjoy those fights from Bristol?
DC, I got to tell you, I have done what they say, woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I am trying to control myself today. I don't want to get off my leash here, but I'm a little bit fired up. How did I enjoy the show? I'll start with this. It was the greatest UFC of 2024, which I was not ready for it to be. It had an awkward start time, so a lot of my friends, including my own mother, missed it, and now they're mad at me because they say that it was my job to let them know. The undercard delivered. Jeff Neal will never get credit for what he did, but he ran over RDA. I don't like the injury part of it for RDA, but come on, man. There was punching, there was kicking, there was wrestling. It all went Jeff Neal's way. That's before we even got into the main card, not to mention the politics, the drama. And I'm going to do something in television we call a tease. I have a text message here. I'm going to read this to you at the appropriate time, but this is the one and only statement Sean Strickland has made since Chimaev started to ease his way into title picture. We'll get to that later in the show.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, you're good, man. Yeah, I love your guys' reaction to the main event. I was watching reactions because to so many, it was so surprising. But Ilia Topuria beats Max Holloway, but he doesn't just beat Max Holloway. He knocks him out. He does exactly what he says he is going to do. Do you think that we have just come to expect Max Holloway to be able to take any damage, to be able to take anybody's punch, that when this kid hit him and dropped him, the surprise wasn't necessarily that he did what he expected, but it was, wow, that's Max Holloway, who nobody had ever even put down in a mixed martial arts fight. He not only hurts him with a right hand, he drops him and he knocks him out.
DC, you talk about recency and the emotions that creates being real. I will see your recency and I will raise you a nostalgia because it was hard to watch, frankly. It was the end of an era, frankly. And Max is so young. People forget how young he is. One stat that Max had is at a time that he was signed to the UFC, he was the youngest person ever signed to the UFC. And I only remember that because on his second fight, he gets brought in to do the job for this Irishman they're trying to build called Conor McGregor. Like nobody knew when they made that fight, which was an undercard, by the way, that Max was going to go on to become a Hall of Famer himself. Max wakes up today a champion. Max's next fight, if they decide to contest the title, will be for the BMF championship. Like Max is a real stud. And I got to say that because there was no excuse here. There was not a bad Max. There was not a bad weight cut. There was not, I got caught. This was a straightforward, fairly adjudicated contest. It turns out that Topuria is just that good. And to your point that I believe that Max was like a Diaz brother in that he could walk through any punch. Yes, I did. I did not know that you could put him down. I did not know that you could put him down and stop him. In fact, if I was to do a prop bet with somebody and they allowed me those odds, that's the number one thing I would have bet, even in front of the outcome of which I thought was going Max's way. I just share for you, Topuria's power turns out to be real, but Topuria against Max and Volk, another number that you won't see a lot of is reach, and Topuria's reach is less than. He had an ability to get inside. He did that with Volkanovski. He did that with Max. He didn't throw any air balls, partner. Every time he went to touch him, whether he was measuring him or he was trying to hurt him, he hit the target. And it really was an incredible thing to see. Western boxing really has a celebration today. Western boxing got represented for the first time in a long time. That's really all we saw at Topuria.
You know, Charlie said that 3 years ago, Ilia Topuria was fighting. And Teddy Atlas, and you might have told me the same story, said, who is that? That kid has boxing to become a world champion. Boy, Teddy's got a keen eye. Teddy's got a keen eye because he's the one that said that 30% better thing, too, whenever you become the champion. But his boxing is not like anything we've seen. And that's why he's able to knock guys out. And that's also why he's able to get to guys being a shorter fighter. His feet are always in the right position. He's always grounded. He throws one thing after the other that's supposed to come. You know, we as wrestlers sometimes, we'll throw like an overhand right, Chael, then we'll do something like this, right? Because it just feels like the quickest thing to the target is me just swinging my hand backwards to try to slap punch this dude. He doesn't do that. So he told me multiple times, Chael, DC, please just understand. I know what I'm talking about. DC, please understand. I am just better than these guys. And he's got that calm demeanor about him, right? He's smiling. He's dressed all presidential with his nice suits on and stuff. And I sit next to him and I go, be a lot harder than you think, man. You're fighting against Alexander Volkanovski. You're fighting against Max Holloway. I go, where do you get this confidence? He goes, it's in the work that I put in. You know, last week ESPN had me do this thing where they said, list the greatest strength of every fighter on this card. From Ilia Topuria, I said, his confidence is his greatest strength. The fact that he is so good and he believes it, whatever part of him. They say, well, what's his biggest weakness? I go, his confidence. He might be overconfident. And his coaches came to me afterwards and said, you said his biggest weakness was confidence. They said, DC, it's not about him being overconfident. This guy just understands the level of the work that he puts in and his skill set that he believes this. And hell, if he believes in it and then making it happen like that, it's crazy.
Daniel, anytime you want to tell me a one-on-one conversation you had with these fighters or trainers, I will sit here quietly. I loved every bit of that. And I don't get to be part of those fighter meetings. And I find that one-on-one to be so important when there's no camera going, because now it's one fighter to another. It's a younger fighter to an established veteran like you. Like, I would find that to be some of their most honest moments. And when you do talk about Ilia's trainer, Ilia has the quintessential story of no father in the house. Mother's got some kids and she needs to burn their energy out, and they stumble across the one sport that they can afford because it doesn't cost very much to do. I mean, this is your quintessential story. But if you look at his picture, that's not what you see. He looks beautiful. They look beautiful. He's got this little kid with him. I think that's his son. It might be a nephew. All I know is he was dressed in a suit. And I mean, this thing is made for a holiday photo. What a beautiful family. I mean, you talk about when a guy's got to fight, he's got to have something to fight for. And a picture's worth 1,000 words. I just love to see that. Daniel, one thing that I got to tell you, I love the comment that you made about Teddy Atlas, because I remember it too. And Teddy should not have the eye for this. Teddy should not have seen this before the rest of us did.
He's a boxer.
But when he called that out, it was even before Ilia. This is back when he's still Mr. Hand Sanitizer. This is when he's about to get released because he's getting the wheelhouse of an actual fighter that can make money named Paddy Pimblett. So even before Volkanovski, and Teddy starts talking about it's this guy's angle. It's the power that he creates when he's creating angles. Yep. And that is a very high level. Like, I won't even attempt to explain to people that don't know boxing about angles, but I'm sharing for you what you and I should have known and we missed it. If you can do that, if you can get inside, if you can land that power, if you have the comfortableness to get inside, it's because you have the ability to wrestle. It's because you have a confidence that he's not going to grab you and take you down, or if you do get into a grab and exchange, that you can do the grab and back, which means he can wrestle. He didn't show us that, and I didn't make that connection, even though Teddy had handed me the answers. And yeah, you're right. When Topuria decided to wrestle, boy, he got him off his feet. He got to the target. He got his hands locked up appropriately. He got him up. He got him down. It was just a little bit of a display of everything. That was not a bad Max. There is no excuse, and that anybody's tried to make. I'm just getting in front of it. We have to recognize, because, Daniel, they're talking about going to Volkanovski next, and I believe that they will. But John Anakin made a comment to you, and I want to bring this to our fans if they missed it. The show ends. You guys are sitting there talking, Felder in the middle, and Anik says to you, what Ilia did is akin to Alex Pereira, being a little bit unknown, being the less famous guy, coming to 205 pounds and back-to-back stopping John Jones and Daniel Cormier. And if he was to do that, we move on. You and John are now in the rear view. You and John represented a wonderful era, but you're behind us. And I'm only sharing that because Ilia's not being shown that same respect. We're going to bring in Volkanovski, who's got a beautiful resume. I wish I had it, but he's lost 3 of his last 4, 2 of them by stoppage. Oh, by the way, to the very guy. Meanwhile, we're juxtaposing that against Diego Lopez's record, who's coming off of finished victories over top contenders. And I'm only sharing, if Topuria, in fact, has ended an era, then he's ended an era. He's either done it or not. And we don't need to just keep recycling him. And this is not my way of getting in front of Volkanovski.
He's going back in to play with it.
Volk's going to get his opportunity regardless of what I'm saying. He's a wonderful fighter. I do get that. But it doesn't change that. What if Volk wins? If Volk wins, now what do? Do we bring Max back in? Do we go back to Ilia? Do we go and see how Ortega's feeling? Do we see if a new guy's established? I think that it gets weird, man. The answer is Lopez. He was there. He was licensed. He was next. He could have fought him that night. You can't tell me he doesn't qualify to fight him. If they were willing to put him in that night, I got to bring that back up, man. I do not think we should just turn the page. Volk did everything right. He jumped in there. He got his cameo. I'm not willing to move on. It's not the right answer. Lopez is.
Yeah, I like the way, but you know about Volkanovski, and it speaks to who he is as a person. He goes, as soon as he walked in the cage, Chael, he goes, "This is your moment. I'm just going to shake your hand." And at Ilia, that's another thing. He's so gracious, right? I will give you a rematch. He said, Max Holloway was a light for us to follow. He goes, I hope I can be a fraction of what he was to the generation before him. He's doing everything the right way. But Volk goes, hey, I'd like to fight. Now I'm getting out of here. I'm not coming in here to push and shove and give the UFC a moment. This is your moment. I'm going, hey, how about Ilia's kid? So we have this idea, right, of Spanish people. Anytime we see them on TV, they're dressed up all nice. They usually come and they take the girl, right? The Spanish guy with the black hair. Ilia's boy walks in there with that black suit and hands him a rose. How about Ilia's boy? I mean, I couldn't imagine Thero coming in there dressed like that, handing you a rose. I'd be like, Thero, get your butt out of here, man. It doesn't work. This kid walked in there, hey, all sun-kissed. Hey, he's all sun-kissed, Chael. He's got a rose, hands it to Topuria. It just all works. It really all works, right? Like, he's got a beautiful family. It just all kind of works for Ilia Topuria, man, and I'm all in on it. Hey, you spoke a little bit about the fight of the year. Dana had some words on this. Take a listen.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. That's a tough one. I'd have to look at more numbers and stats, but you can't take it away from either one of them what they've done this year. Alex. When you look at Alex, he's on vacation in Australia, and we call him and packs up and heads home and comes into the fight. He's built different, that guy.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see what he just did again for a very long time.
It's like he doesn't even care about a full camp. He doesn't care if he's hurt. He doesn't care about anything. He'll get in there and fight.
So, Chael, Dana said that it will be hard to say Ilia is the fight of the year because of what Alex Pereira has done. Stepping up on short notice, saving fight cards, knocking people out, but also doing it while he is injured. For me, though, Chael, I believe that in a race of who the fight of the year was, that was uncontested and unquestionable, Ilia Topuria started the conversation. He has started the conversation as to who the fight of the year is. And for me, Chael, I believe it's done. I believe Ilia is the fight of the year. Now, let me tell you why. Alex Pereira has one more fight to judge outside of Ilia Topuria. But can you tell me one of Alex's 3 wins that outweighs one of Ilia's wins this year? Hey, knockouts, all even. Both of them did it. They both have knockouts, all even. Second is Jamal Hill, Jiri Prochazka, and Khalil Roundtree. Their resumes, can they stack up to either of Max's resumes or Alexander Volk's resumes? Nothing. Not even close. Nada. It's a non-factor. And then Khalil Roundtree, for as much as we love him, he did get beat up, and he was the number 8 ranked guy in the world. It's in terms of quality competition, Chael, it seems like it should be a landslide that Ilia Topuria receives that championship.
Sure. And ultimately what we're discussing is a popularity contest anyway. And when you do look at Ilia Topuria, man, he represents every group out there. He's not going for any specific demographic. And the country of Spain is behind this guy. The prime minister is coming out and speaking about him. The most famous actresses, the most famous athletes are coming to watch him live, let alone doing promos for him. I don't know where this guy goes wrong. He appears to be a family man. He's stunningly handsome. He's wildly successful. Yeah. Don't forget he's undefeated. And when you're talking about who beat who in the significance, I do see what you're talking about. Ilia Topuria didn't just beat a featherweight champion. He beat a BMF champion. He didn't just do that. He beat the number 1 ranked guy. He beat the number 2 ranked guy. He didn't just do that. He beat the GOAT, pound for pound, the current number 1 ranked guy, which is what Volkanovski was. He took all those things out, and he didn't need a total of 30 minutes to do it. It really was something special. Yeah. The mere fact that we're having an argument in a comparison to young Ilia Topuria, who truly, when I first got established with this guy and I went to look him up and I needed somebody to help me with the spelling of both Ilia and Topuria, it was because he was this guy that Patty Pimlet called Mr. Hand Sanitizer for some behind-the-scenes scuffle. And I remember thinking, this young Mr. Hand Sanitizer had better be careful when he's picking on a star like Patty. Now, Topuria is the champion of the world and possibly the biggest draw that we've got. It's going to be very interesting when all of these numbers settle.
Hey, I will say this. You say his name right. That's the ultimate sign. You literally, hey, your pronunciation of Topuria is as good as it comes. You might as well be Spanish because you are saying it very, very well, Chael. I'm going to tell you that, man. Look.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
There are only three. There are literally, when we start and we talk about who are the greatest featherweights of all time, there are three people. Jose Aldo, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski. Please don't put Jose Aldo in there with this guy. Like, let's just assume he would be Jose Aldo. Dude, he knocked out Volk. He knocked out Max. So two of the three greatest featherweights of all time, he won the belt from one, and he knocked out the other. And, Chael, he did it when they're still in their prime. Max is 32 years old. He's not old and washed up. Volkanovski's like 34, 35 years old. He's not old and washed up. These guys are still relevant in this world of mixed martial arts. And he knocked them both out. And he knocked them both out in less than 5 rounds. He got Volk in the second. He got Max in the third. He beat those two dudes in less than it would take one full championship fight. It's crazy. To me, I feel, hands down, this guy is the fighter of the year. I love Alex Pereira. I think Alex Pereira and what he does is nuts. But could you imagine? Air, in the back, who's ranked number 8 in the world at featherweight? Who's ranked number 8 in the world at featherweight right now, Chael? And if she can give me that answer, I want you to tell me what you think would happen to that person, Josh Emmett.
Daniel,
Look, he fought Josh Emmett. He fought Josh Emmett, and he destroyed it.
And Daniel, if I may, just for our audience, because I think the point that you're trying to prove is that's what Pereira just did. Pereira, who we're comparing here, Pereira just fought the number 8 guy. So you're asking what would happen if Ilia was to slide down the roster and go against number 8? It turns out we know the answer because he had Josh Emmett, and it was a one-sided ass kicking. I concede. I know what you're referencing.
The same
but
exact
Daniel,
thing.
is there a strength here to what I'm saying too? And why are we revisiting that? And I get all the nice things you got to say about Volk so you don't look disrespectful. Why are we revisiting that? Doesn't it seem as though that era, that page got turned, whether we like it or not, and we got to move on? And that's where we look to Diego Lopez, no?
Yeah, I think so. But, Chael, you know what the problem is? I think that what we all believe is what the organization believes. Remember, Volk had just got knocked out by Islam, going up fighting on short notice. He was 3 months after getting knocked out by Islam. He was out there getting knocked out by Ilia Topuria. So maybe he was a little bit compromised, right? Like, let's see Volkanovski refreshed after a year off and time and all this stuff. So I get it, but no, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying in regards to moving forward. It seems like he put that part in the rear view, but obviously Volkanovski's still as good as anybody in the world, so we will see. But I would not have any problem with Diego Lopez being the guy fighting him because I do believe you're going to have to be a little bit something different than what those guys were to really compete against those guys. But Conor McGregor was a featherweight at the time, and he was knocking people out. He got Jose Aldo in 15 seconds, and he had power. But has there ever been a guy that possesses the power at 145 like this guy? Ever?
No. And I say that while I'm pausing and I'm watching some Jose Aldo highlights within my head. I'm watching what Conor McGregor did in my head. But Daniel, and it's also the way that he's doing it. I mean, that good, solid Western boxing. I got to go back to that term because those guys haven't had a real feather in their cap in a meaningful amount of time. But when you're out there watching Topuria, boy, the chin is down, the hands are up, the feet are moving. He's got great eyes. He's always looking to slip inside. If he throws one, it's only to set up something else. If he throws that something else, it's only to set up that third power shot that's coming, and punches and bunches. There was a meaningful part of this fight, and it was the punch that landed that hurt Max, set Max back into the fence. Now, the real key to the finish comes with what shot is Topuria going to do next? Many guys have hurt guys on their feet into the fence. They grab them, they take them down. But it just creates a recovery process, or they go for a kick, or they do what Coach Clayton Hires calls head hunting. Go right back. But what what Ilia did is really what set the course for those dominoes to fall, which is he slipped outside and he sent one right to the body. Right into the body. That is when then everything is gone from Max. He's a little dizzy upstairs, and now his body and his hands come back down, and that's what allowed everything to open up. But that is a veteran move. That takes a lot of time and studying and understanding of the sport, being on the couch, watching other fights with your trainer to know to throw that shot. And I just bring to you, much like we talk about with Alex Pereira, Topuria doesn't have all this experience. That is his first time in a main event like this, closing out a pay-per-view. He's doing so many things so well that are a bit more ahead of his time, John Smith-esque, more advanced than what his age and his skills represent. Very impressive stuff.
You know, after the fight, I go into Max Holloway's locker room to talk to him. Max is a great friend of mine, and it's hard, man. Right? It's hard. It's hard to watch a guy that you care about so much go through that. And you start to kind of get the lip quiver, and you start to feel like you want to shed some tears for him because you know what he's going through. Because he did it for me, right? When I lost to Stipe in Anaheim, he was there. Anytime I lost, he was there. And Max Holloway was the one trying to uplift us. I'm looking at his wife, and she looks like she wants to cry. I'm about to cry. There's a funeral going on in there. And he goes, it's the game, D. He's like, don't worry about it. It's the game. This guy is as grounded as any person you'll ever meet. These stories about Max Holloway, the person, they're not multiplied to try to make an effect on people. He really is who he is. And he lost. And he made no excuses. And that's the tell of a champion, right? Most dudes want to run out the arena and go. Max went and sat at that press conference. He faced the music. He sat up there and he took it. But he said he's done at featherweight. Cutting all that weight for what, right?
That's great.
There's no clear path to what's next by staying there.
DC, hold on. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm very excited to hear this. I mean, I really am. Max is young, the point that we were talking about. Max is the BMF champion, the point that we've been talking about. Max went as far. You want to talk about he's healing the wounds and trying to protect your emotions, stop your lip from quivering? He went right out. He called out Dustin Poirier and says he's willing to put up the BMF belt. He was doing that to sweeten the pot because their official score is 0-2 against Max. So he's letting Dustin know, hey, man, if you give me that third shot, particularly since you've told everybody it's going to be your last fight, that's one I want back. I'll bring the belt. I love it. Don't forget, and I know I'm talking fast, but I got a lot of thoughts on this, DC. Don't forget the night of the knockout heard around the world, which will be recognized by our community as knockout of the year. I'm quite sure, and I'm talking about when Max puts Gaethje down. That very night, they were looking for a contender against Islam. They turned to the next bout of the evening. I'm going back to UFC 300, but they turned to Charles Oliveira taking on Circarian. When Circarian won the bout and didn't want it, they even had to pick up the phone and call someone that wasn't even there. And my only point being, Max could have taken that fight. Max, as BMF champion, could have taken the number one contendership at 55, but he told everybody, no, that's not the one I want. I want it at 45. That's where I come from. The mere fact that Max is telling you I'm done at that weight class reinvigorates his career. It will add years to your career. Most fighters retire because they're done making weight. They never tell anyone that. That is the number one thing that retires guys. And so the idea that Max is willing to start over, not to mention what a jump start he's got. He's probably going to get the Dustin Poirier fight. He's probably going to be able to defend that BMF title. And a couple of good matches at 55 puts him right back in the talks. And that's where he belongs, Daniel. He belongs in title talks, regardless of getting caught by a Topuria right hand or not.
He's going to be there for the rest of his career. He's just one of those guys. But, Chael, you know one guy that's entering into the conversation is Khamzat Chimaev. I gave a photo that I received from Dana White. Because normally when Dana sends you a photo, you're supposed to show it, right? Like, sure. Hey, go. I don't know. I didn't ask for permission because I knew that this photo would be something that the world needed to see. Because for me, it was, everybody's like, wait, what? Why did Rob tap so fast? Rob quit. I got multiple texts going, Rob quit. Rob quit. Rob would never quit. Rob would never quit. And by releasing that photo, it furthers the point that Rob tapped because he had no choice. His teeth got shifted. Khamzat Chimaev squeezed him so hard that he shifted his teeth in a matter of 3 seconds. Khamzat Chimaev is the number one contender, Chael. I mean, he's always been impressive. But that, over that guy, was the most impressive thing he's ever done, by far.
His second win over world champions in as many fights. Oh, and by the way, from 2 different weight classes. And of course, I'm not Kamaru Usman and Robert Whittaker. Yes, this is amazing stuff. But to my understanding, Sean Strickland was next. I know in this sport.
You have a text. You have a text.
Exactly where I was going to go, Dan, because one thing in this sport, we will fiercely adhere to the rules that we change as we go. But it does matter, how locked in were you, Sean? And this is just what I asked him. I said, I'm going to make this public. You'll make me look good if you give me a quote you didn't give anybody else. He said, give me just a moment. And here is eventually what he said. And I quote, I'm next in line. It has been said, it has been written. I wish he would have elaborated on that. After I beat Dricus up, Chimaev can step up. And to the point that Chimaev is a contender, I welcome that. But I have Dricus next. The man who scammed his fan, became friends with a dictator, and had to flee his homeland while staying on the run, needs to tighten his own leash up a little bit. Hey, Chimaev, sit down and wait your turn. That is from the former champion, Sean Strickland, and that was a quote.
Sean Strickland said that.
That's nasty. He got nasty in there, didn't he?
I like it. It's nasty. It's nasty, but that's what he does.
They used to train together, DC.
It's kind of crazy that you just... Yeah, that's what I thought. And it felt like when the stories that their training was coming out, that Sean was almost putting Chimaev over. Yep. Maybe it didn't go like we were led to believe it went. Look, man, he does have a rightful claim to being the number 1 contender. He lost his belt in a very controversial fight, very close. He goes out there, he beats Paulo Costa. They say, hey, you're next. I get it, man. I get it. It all kind of makes sense. But when you got a guy like that, when you got a guy that's just going through world champ after world champ, it feels like he's the next guy. Here's the thing. It honestly feels like he should have already fought for the championship. But I think it kind of like has that Khabib feel to it, where Khabib kept getting injured. Khabib couldn't get to the fights. And so it was like a matter of time before he finally got there. It feels like Chimaev is going to get there. Just a matter of being in the right place at the right time.
Did Khamzat just prove that he's the scariest dude in the UFC? And Daniel, I know that's a strange word to use, but when you damage people, when you hurt them and make them surrender, I think scary is fair. And I'm just asking you, is this the boogeyman of the UFC right now?
I think he's very scary, Chael, but I think he's very scary early. I think the threat becomes less present as the fight gets extended. And that's what Kamaru Usman showed, right? Remember how bad he beat up on Kamaru Usman in the first round of their fight? And then Kamaru Usman started chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. But I don't know if you can get to the second round. He just took a world champion, and he submitted him in 1 round. Not only did he submit him, Yoel Romero could not take Robert Whittaker down and hold him down effectively like we just saw Khamzat Chimaev do on Saturday. Yes, he's scary. Yes, he's dangerous. It feels like when Jailton Almeida was just taking these heavyweights down and submitting them, it feels like that. Like the danger is right in front of your face, and you just can't stop it. And I think that is probably the most unnerving feeling you can have when going into a fight with someone like Chimaev.
Sure. And, when you talk about the hard fight that Chimaev had with Usman, and a lot of people thought, well, he gets fatigued. And, we've really seen him now that somebody stood up to him. Or you go back to the Gilbert Burns fight, which was a lot closer and more competitive than we thought it would be. That was a drawdown for some Chimaev viewers. I lifted him up. When a fighter finds himself in a hard contest, what's he going to do? Can he fight? Meaning, can he come back when the punches are coming at him? Or is he just good with the aggression when it's one way? I like to have those questions answered before you put the guy in a world title fight. The fact that you spoke to Chimaev before this contest and he told you, I am not going to hold back and pace myself. I'm throwing everything at them, meaning I'm not going to change anything just because I got fatigued against Kamaru Usman. I expect to get fatigued. I like that. Now, words are easy, actions are different. But when you look at that level of energy that he put into that first round with Whittaker to get him the heck out of there, that is scary. There is no other word for that. The biggest fear a combat athlete has when he's in the locker room prior to the match, any sport, wrestling, judo, boxing, in this case, MMA, the biggest fear is exhaustion. It's not the outcome not going their way. And when you have somebody like Chimaev who's aware that he can get tired, he's no longer naive to the fact and simply doesn't care. He embraces it. That's what Fedor did so well. That's what Dan Gable did so well.
Absolutely, bro. He is something special. It's fun to watch. It's always fun whenever these guys start to really make themselves who you know they're going to be or who you expect them to be. Because a lot of times, Shell, people come in with hype and they don't live up to it. Right now in the UFC, we're very lucky, right? Topuria had hype. He became a champ. Chimaev had hype. He's still doing his thing. Paddy Pimblett had hype. He's getting better as time goes on. The organization is in a great place right now in terms of having young fighters that seem to have the ability to fight not only at the top of their division, but ultimately get all the way to a championship or get themselves championship opportunities. It's been, that fight night was nuts. One dude, hey, Shara Bullet did a double spinning back fist. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No. And what the real question that I have is, was that drilled? Was that trained? You know, did you ever practice that? Or did you come up with it in the moment? Because I think he came up with it. I understand the kick. I understand the spin. Using the spin to set up another spin? I'd never even heard of such a thing, not even in a video game.
I've never seen that. It was impossible to think that that would happen, a double spinning back fist. But hey, then he gets on the microphone and he calls out Adesanya. I felt like it was a good call out because why wait, right, Chael? You are a young guy with a lot of hype. You want another striker. You don't want to call out these other guys that are going to try to take you out constantly. What did you make of that call out? Adesanya next for Shara Bullet.
It was outstanding.
But at least make the call out.
It was outstanding. Matchup-wise, X's and O's. It was also very smart. Bullet did not go after Bo Nickel or Tucker, a great grappler, for example. He was strategic with that.
Most times when you're like that guy, like Izzy, especially a champion on his way back who just lost another title fight, you don't want to see Shara Bullet. You want somebody else before you have to fight those guys. You fight those guys when you have to fight those guys. Chill. Before we wrap the show, they said you wanted to talk to me a little bit about wrestling, something in wrestling. What is it?
Daniel, I got to just set the stage for our viewers. We have an Olympic champion here in America called David Taylor, who went on to become the head coach of Oklahoma State while signing the largest coaching contract in the history of the NCAA for the sport of wrestling. Fully retired. Russia has a guy who Putin himself has called the best wrestler we ever had. Russia, of course, being the world's most dominant superpower. They call him, I'm not going to say Sadulayev, they call him the Russian tank. So we got Taylor from America, we got the Russian tank. Now we have something called the non-Olympic World Championships, where the weight class splits the difference. It's halfway up from the place that David Taylor won a gold medal. It's halfway down from a place where Sadulayev won two. These guys have both decided to enter. No trials for the tank. The country put him in after David Taylor fought his way to get in. These two, it's supposed to set up the stage for a potential gold medal match. To heck with that. The bracketing room said, you're doing it in the very first round.
Why?
And the only time they can make these guys fight, I mean, otherwise you got to draw and work your way into each other. If you want to make them do it, you got to do it in the opening round. I don't know what the point is of having a seeding meeting if two Olympic champions can find each other, but there is the other side to the story, which is fans like you and I are now guaranteed a match that we only dreamed of.
Wrestling generally shoots itself in the foot. I think for the first time, they kind of made it to where we're going to see the matches that we want to see. Because guess what? There's an Iranian called Gazimpur who's in the semis of that side. On the other side of the bracket, I don't even know who's there. Chael, you and I could probably still wrestle in that bracket on that side.
On that side.
I don't know who's on that side. As long as we're not in there with Gazimpur, Taylor, and Sadulayev, you're fine. It seems like the three best guys in the world are on one side. I'm excited. Because now, Chael, you're guaranteed a match of Sadulayev-Taylor. You're guaranteed a match of one of those guys wrestling Gazimpur. And the other guy is going to wrestle Gazimpur too. One guy, whoever loses that first match, is going to wrestle both of those guys. It's unbelievable to watch it happen. Unless Gazimpur wins in the semifinals, then it would knock out everybody behind.
Of course.
Him. Hey, it was a good show. It's a good show. Hey, the travel
was fun
to me. I'm a little beat down right now, my boys. Feel like I'm getting sick.
I hear it. I respect that in you. By the way, where are you? Did you stay in Abu Dhabi? Did you fly home?
No, dude. I got on the plane like right after. I was gone 3 hours after the fight. Hey, that travel was brutal this time too. Second time I've gone to Abu Dhabi since August, and I need a break, Chael. I can't go try. I'm going to Canada next weekend, though.
I hear it. I hear it in your voice. You're a stud for doing it. I'm glad you didn't miss today. Thanks, DC.
Guys, until next time, Chael and I are back Thursday. We'll talk about the fights this weekend and everything else going on in mixed martial arts. Get us wherever you get your podcasts, ESPN, MMA, YouTube, ESPN2, and ESPN Plus. For the bad guy, Chael, son, and I'm Daniel Cormier. Until next time, peace, guys.